We're good to go, David, if you want to kick it off.
All right, great. Dr. Chaudhary, you all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, well then what I'll just do is say hello to everybody. I'm David Jerome with the Chamber, and this is our second in a series of conversations that we've been hosting for this year, and I hope into next as well, where we introduce the community, the business community, and the wider community in El Paso, and all the great work that's being done by Dr. Chaudhary, and his team at UTEP on regional aerospace and defense supply development. I'll let the good doctor introduce his guest in a moment, but before we do, I just want to do one quick shout out to Michael Hernandez is on the call too, who's also been a big player in making this happen here in the community, as Dr. Chaudhary knows. And with that, I will be happy to hand it over to the capable hands of Dr. Chaudhary, please.
Thank you, David. I also saw Jessica just joined, so I'll give a shout to her as well. She's the economic director of City of El Paso. And thank you, David. I sincerely appreciate this opportunity. As David mentioned, this is a part of our regional initiative of creating advanced manufacturing jobs in El Paso. If you're familiar with El Paso, it is the largest manufacturing hub in North America. Unfortunately, the city of El Paso or El Paso region has only 15,000 manufacturing jobs. So overarching objective is that bringing back manufacturing job in US soil and creating an unprecedented economic opportunity for our community and our residents of El Paso. UTEP has emerged as one of the top aerospace and defense education and research university in the nation. Last 10 years alone, we put more than 400 aerospace and defense trained engineers in aerospace and defense workforce. So in talent production, we are huge. However, we last 2.5 years partnering with City of El Paso, County of El Paso, City of Horizon, as well as El Paso Chamber of Commerce and Congresswoman Escobar's office, we launched a really integrated effort to create an aerospace and defense supply chain in El Paso. And we partner with obviously our biggest industry partner, Lockheed Martin, but as well as NASA. So part of this initiative this semester, this year we started, is that hearing from the top expert in the area so that we can develop a very integrated regional strategy. So in that, today we have one of the national authorities speaking, having conversation with us is Dr. Parimal Kopardekar, commonly known as PK. He is a national authority in urban air mobility. But what's really amazing, I heard his presentation in early February in the aerospace supply chain meeting, is his vision that how are you going to support this emergence of urban air mobility? It is very similar to automotive supply chain. Do we have that supply chain? Unfortunately not. El Paso want a piece of that supply chain. We want to grow that supply chain. We are all in together and very committed. Our regional stakeholders, our mayor, our county judge, our congresswoman are very, very committed to develop their supply chain. So with that, you have PK's CV on our website, so you can see it. You know, he's the director of NASA Aeronautics Research Institute located in NASA Ames Research Center. He's also managing that principal investigator for the Unmanned Aircraft System Traffic Management Project. With that, PK, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Professor Chaudhary, and thank you, David. We really appreciate you inviting NASA on this. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about what possibilities exist for El Paso and howdy El Paso. So it's going to be really a great opportunity for all of us to actually be part of the new emerging urban air mobility marketplace. So thank you again for El Paso's initiative and interest in being part of the manufacturing hub and supply chain kind of a setup. that is much needed to prepare for future. So let's talk about what supply chain typically means. So I teach supply chain courses, operations management courses. So I'll be a little bit professorial, taking cue from Professor Chowdhury here, but I'll try to steer towards what can be done and values that are needed to promote the ecosystem of supply chain. So if we look at the supply chain, it includes everything. For aerospace particularly, and automobile, the same thing, from all the way to the raw materials to the components, and include subsystems, systems, and assembly, and final delivery to the customer, whatever the product happens to be. Now, in this case, we are talking about aircraft and cars. The aircraft and car industry has evolved to a point where they basically stopped dealing with all the possible suppliers, 55,000 of them in one case. And instead, they said we should do a tiered approach where the original equipment manufacturer, OEM, only interacts with tier one interacts with two, 3, and it kind of goes into this hierarchy of supply chain. Now, what's interesting about that, it increases the ease of coordination between tiers, and the OEM does not have to deal with all the coordination across everybody. So that's the advantage of that. The disadvantage many times is you lack the visibility as to what is happening at the lower tiers. So that manifests into many problems. So, for example, Fukushima disaster happened, and all of a sudden, certain types of chemicals were not available, but they had inventory. So the suppliers there had some inventory. So the OEM and the first tier thought, oh yeah, we don't have to worry about that, in case Collins Aerospace or someone like that. And all of a sudden, 5 months down the line or so, those chemicals stopped coming in, and then that started to impact the domino effect. Same thing was experienced by Cisco and Intel and others when those disasters happened. The lower tier suppliers got impacted, but that was not completely transparent right away. So that's sort of the one manifestation of this hierarchy. The other manifestation is the socially responsible part, and that's sort of more in the research side and being companies socially responsible. Sometimes you see some suppliers, downstream suppliers, take risks about labor practices and things like that that probably are not considered ethically best. So the OEMs don't always have that visibility into the lower tier suppliers, but they are the ones who kind of get bad press. So, for example of that is Nike producing shoes, and they had some child labor in some countries, and that caused them a lot of bad press. And then they created a moonshot to basically increase the corporate social responsibility. So this tier system is interesting, and it causes these challenges. Now, what's good about now the current technology is that you can actually create a digitally connected tier. So you don't have to use the old-fashioned way of having the manual interactions and a lot of that. These days, you can have these digital transparent tiers, digitally coordinated things. So if the raw material, for example, cobalt or something else, going to be pressed in the future, or the cost fluctuates radically, then you will be able to do assessments on what would happen in the future. Oil prices is the same thing. It's a big part of the supply chain for airlines, and then that changes. It has impact on the prices and things like that. So you want this digital enterprise. So if I am basically El Paso, what would I think about it? I would say, well, create a digital hub that connects the regional basically suppliers, so that the suppliers can interact with other suppliers and suppliers can interact with OEMs. Now, why that is important is that, let's say you are a tier 4 supplier, you only make rivets, and someone else makes only something else. And those two components are needed for the next tier up to get assembled. Now, you want to have a pretty good idea about the coordination across all the parties. So you don't want this situation where you hurry up and wait, right? So If I'm going to produce 50,000 and you can only produce 2,000 and the customer only gets 2,000, that is going to not be good. So you want to know like how best you can use your capacity to maximize the efficiency, serve your customer, maximize the revenue and profit at the same time. So you want this digitally connected. So one of the ways you can attract new manufacturers, new suppliers, say, we will offer this digitally connected platform for those who want to connect with each other, interact with each other. Now, another example I'll give you is if you look at Tim Cook, now I'll say this little bit joking story about this. Tim Cook, so I live in Cupertino. Apple's headquarters is in Cupertino. So Tim Cook has an office in Cupertino, obviously. Now I also have a home office in Cupertino, right? So I kind of say like, hey, we both are supply chain kind of passionate people. Tim Cook is one of the best supply chain experts in the whole world, pretty much the way he set up the Apple supply chain. And I say, hey, I also same kind of background. Both of us are industrial engineers and all that. I keep talking to my wife about that, with passion. And she's like, there's one difference. And, so what is that? She's like, there's a difference in your bank accounts. You got several zeros missing. That's sort of but you can see if you're a really good supply chain expert, you can go all the way to the top. But the fun aside, so what Tim Cook says that the reason I go to different countries, China or other Vietnam or whatever, is not just for labor cost anymore. And this is critical for us in the United States. The labor cost is not the only reason why these guys go outside. It's the access to the supplier. It's the ease of connection with the suppliers and the talent. That's not that difficult for us to replicate. If it's access to the suppliers and having the suppliers available, we can build that. So the cost advantage of the labor that used to happen when people started to outsource 20 years ago or more, that's gone, practically gone. There's still some cost advantage, but that is no longer the significant aspect. It's the access and the supply chain community at large that is available and the talent to support it. I think we can do that. I think we have an opportunity when we are coming up with this new types of ecosystem for urban air mobility, advanced air mobility, drones, supersonic vehicles, even the DoD stuff. We have ability to basically rethink that. How do we set up that system that will enable faster transactions? So another example from Apple is people say, oh, everything gets designed in Cupertino and then shipped to China for manufacturing. It's not quite that simple. There is a lot of interaction that happens. So if I'm using this ear parts, and what they say is like when they manufacture ear parts, when they design the ear parts, they worked with the ITEC, the company that actually would manufacture these ear parts. Digitally, they decided what are the right things to do in terms of the manufacturability, ease of manufacturing, the cost of manufacturing, without sacrificing the performance. So there is a lot of give and take that happened between the original design, and what ended up happening to be the final design, and that keeps on evolving. But manufacturing had a huge impact in that. So the concurrent engineering is a whole discipline that actually takes into account these things. It's something that we can do. We can replicate that anywhere, and I'm sure there's probably a course in your manufacturing or mechanical department about concurrent engineering, or at least a chapter. All right, so those kind of things we are able to execute, and I think we can replicate that. So you look at your El Paso or any other state, take California, Virginia, wherever you want to be. Look at your ecosystem, do this digital connectivity, entice the suppliers to say, if you come here, you will be digitally connected to the others. You have access to other suppliers for give and take. You have access to other suppliers for raw material. You have access to other suppliers for better frictionless sort of business, as well as iterative design process. So this allows this iterative design and engineering and sort of marketing and all of that stuff. Also, it can be used for procurement, right? So you can do fast bidding on electronically. You can put out a requisition. If I want X parts, X type of parts, and my quantity is 1,000. and you can get bids across the basically this platform. So you build something that will help people, entice people. You already have great opportunities in terms of building curriculum at UTEP. You have the ecosystem and some advantages because you're closer to the southern border and such. So I think let's build it. Let's build the capabilities that will house these things. You already have Lockheed nearby. So there are a number of areas you can go: battery, electric propulsion, microelectronics. The other thing you can think about is like you can create a hub. If you want only one type of suppliers, which typically increases the risk, geographical risk, I would try to diversify as a long-term strategy. But you could have this sort of hub. I am the hub for batteries and hub for propulsion systems or hub for basically microelectronics, however, right? So you can characterize yourself and put all energies behind it to create that ecosystem. That does help with the talent and the setting of the entire ecosystem in terms of education and skills and trade skills on the entire setup that goes with it. It's not just the PhDs and graduate programs and undergraduate, but you also need the talent pool for maintenance, repair, and overall. I'll give you one example and I'll stop at that point and we'll have a conversation. So everybody owns a car pretty much, more than one in many cases, and they need servicing, they need maintenance of some kind. So you go to the shop and they say, oh, you need this done. Then the part, they look into the computer, into the system, they get the part, they call in and order, place a part order. The part shows up in a few hours. The maintenance technician who takes care of it. If you imagine that to say, like, what would the urban air mobility vertical takeoff landing aircraft would need? They would need a similar setup. Now, these things will operate in the region, whether it's Dallas, El Paso, wherever it is. When you start to operate, they're going to need servicing. They're going to need some kind of basically maintenance, preventive maintenance, and also some other maintenance, repair, and overall. And when you need that, you want to have access to that right away. You don't want to have downtime for that aircraft or that asset. So how do you make sure that you build that whole ecosystem of the maintaining people who know how to do maintenance, people who can actually have the parts that are authenticated? Now, these are aviation grade, so there are a lot of processes involved in making sure the parts are aviation grade, they're authenticated, they are genuine and not counterfeit. There is pressure in the marketplace to have some counterfeit parts because the cost of these aviation grade parts are very high, a couple of $100 instead of $2 thing that you can get similar looking parts. I'm not saying similar performance because the temperature and the pressure and all of that kinetic things that you stress that these aviation grade parts have to accommodate. So that's why they're expensive. They're rated for that type of performance. But they look similar to some other parts, and then those are very cheap to make. So there's a pressure. So how do you maintain that? How do you maintain this ecosystem that has genuine parts that are rated for that purpose? And so it's very interesting problem. Making sure that let's say we are going towards electric vertical takeoff and landing. How do you make sure that we are training people who know how to handle high voltage aircraft and their servicing, their maintenance and battery and propulsion systems? So that's another area where you can actually have some trade related education and such that we can offer. Tremendous opportunity. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad you all are thinking in El Paso how you can position El Paso, United States and Texas, and to basically prepare ourselves to support this ecosystem. And also it will bring jobs, definitely, if we do it right. It will support the ecosystem. It will support the preparedness of the emerging aerospace. So we appreciate your interest in this context and supply chain and manufacturing. There will be a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs. So I'm sure UTEP has a entrepreneurship related program. That's another thing we can actually promote. How do you actually get more entrepreneurs going into this manufacturing supply chain kind of area? So I'll stop here and thank you again.
Thank you, PK. That was very nice introduction, and obviously the digital hub for our local manufacturing. That's something we have been thinking and trying to get it done. Before I move to Q&A, I have a couple of things I need to address. So UTEP Aerospace, the start of UTEP Aerospace and Defense Program started with two largest entities supporting us. One is NASA, and more specifically NASA MUDOP program. Okay, so before NASA MUDOP made our investment to UTEP, there was absolutely no capacity, and we did not produce any aerospace trained workforce. So MUDOP investment in different form came from MUDOP program, came from aerospace manufacturing, or MA, which is the Aerospace Academic Program. That make a remarkable impact in the community. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, that there are 400 engineers we trained last decade. And last year alone, Lockheed hired 101 of our students, which is remarkable. I don't think any university can beat that numbers, right? It's there, right? So, and we owe that to these two NASA and especially MUDOP program, as well as Lockheed Martin, and their tremendous help to the community. So I'm gonna give you a quick introduction to, I see a lot of my MUDOP folks in the call, and then I'll ask Joletta Patrick for a few minutes of talking. Okay, so I see that obviously Joletta Patrick, who's now the director of California STEM program from NASA, is there. I also see Dr. Dennis, who is the project manager for our aerospace manufacturing. I see Rod Chappell, who is the lead for the sustainability initiative. I see Kyle Venderson from MUDOP program. If I don't miss any, so Joletta, I would just like to give you floor for a few minutes just to introduce yourself and talk for a few minutes before we go to the Q&A.
Sure, thank you. I must initially apologize. I've tried to log on twice and get my video up, and I wasn't able to do so. So huge apologies for that, because I'm a huge believer in making sure that video is showing in our virtual environment. And just want to extend kudos to PK. You know, it's hard to follow you. I'm going to do my best, but just really glad to see this conversation and this dialogue going. Just as a repeat of a quick introduction, my name is Dr. Joletta Patrick, and I work in the Office of STEM Engagement at NASA Ames Research Center, located in Northern Cali in Moffettville, California, or Mountain View area. But I also serve as the Director of STEM Engagement at Armstrong Flight Research Center, located on Edwards Air Force Base in Southern Cali, near Palmdale, Lancaster area, very much in the desert. And so I have the privilege and honor to lead an amazing team. And like you, Dr. Tudor, I see so many. I probably will go ahead and throw in there. I see Becky Flick as one of those individuals that's participating. But I would say that in general, our office is here to support. I think PK gave some great ideas, and I could definitely see all the work in progress that UTEP has already done, and that, you know, there's still ways that we're looking to collaborate and foster this relationship to become an incubator of this type of work. I heard PK mention entrepreneurship, and I'm a huge advocate for that. My background is engineering, and I would make this statement. It was so funny. When I was in school, I happened to be doing a short assignment, not even related to my degree, but I was working in a temp agency. And it was funny because I hired in with NASA at Johnson Space Center as a flight controller with a contractor. It was United Space Alliance at the time. And because I worked on those two sides, and I know those seem like they're not related, but I began to realize that working as a contractor, I was a high paid temp service, tip agent in some regards. And I'm like, why aren't we creating organizations and companies, to go and compete for those dollars to become those tip agencies? There's no reason why our organizations, our entities right here in El Paso in the Valley can't be those, United Space Alliance, be those McDonnell Douglas, the Lockheed Martins, and the like, and be able to provide that service to students coming, the talent that is coming from UTEP and surrounding areas, to be those immediate individuals working on projects like PKs and the like. So I love this environment, this conversation, and it is so vital that you have entities like the Chamber of Commerce participating, because when you have all of this put behind this, you have no possibility, there's only one way to go, which is be successful. And that's an exciting place to be when you have this level of collaboration and support. So with that, I'll really just turn it back over to you, Dr. Trudery. I appreciate the invite. I hate, again, my camera is not working, but our team is here. We're here to support, and we totally believe in what you're, what everyone is trying to do and trying to accomplish. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Violetta, for this remarks, and you've been a big supporter for our program, and thank you so much. So with that, I'm going to go back to PK with some specific questions, and then we'll open the floor for all other participants to ask questions. PK, could you please elaborate a little bit about the digital hub? Is there any existing system that our community can procure, or we have to develop from ground up?
Yeah, so one thing I can say is we are building one hub, and we'll love to have part of it. So the way we are building the hub is for the urban air mobility. We teamed up with DoD, Agility Prime, and there are a number of basically capable manufacturers that want to be part of this ecosystem. The OEMs can find these manufacturers, so they want to be part of this ecosystem. So the reason digital hub is important is this. It's quite simple. I have talked to many original equipment manufacturers, OEMs, and they say, I have trouble finding someone who can do overmolding part. Now, I happen to get excited about molding and mold forming. That used to be one of my favorite subjects when I did production engineering at bachelor's. And so those guys can find suppliers. There are suppliers all over the place that are capable of doing that. They just don't know the existence or the need. There is no Amazon of this aerospace ecosystem that connects, or eBay connects all these guys. It's very much by who you know, and the suppliers know, and all of that, and it kind of goes on organically. So instead of that, what we want to do, and every region should really do this, in my personal view, and then they can all be connected to each other. It's like Internet of suppliers. It's like Amazon or Alibaba or eBay, kind of a platform that has simple characteristics. I'm a supplier or company ABC. My address is El Paso, Texas, on this street. Here's what I manufacture. Here's my capacity. Here are the types of machines I have, and contact me for XYZ 3 things, right? That would be a first starting point. And you can collect all the manufacturers in your location, then put them on. It's like a old white page, but it's electronic, with a little bit more information on what kind of manufacturing capabilities you have, what kind of basically things you're capable of producing and such. So that allows like me to to search quickly and say, I need some parts and I need them by tomorrow. Who's able to do that? Do a quick search, and it can all be part of the internet movement. It doesn't have to be all separate system. It can connect everything through internet these days, right? So all you do is create a electronic portal on website and say, you join me, fill up a form, it gets you logged in, and so you're part of then the search. So that's the way I would orchestrate it. You can create rings, 50 miles, 100 miles from the city hub, 200 miles, 500 miles, or you can create rings by type of activities you can do, heavy machinery, precision machinery. There are like different ways you can dissect and then analyze and categorize the suppliers and manufacturers. Some work on cobalt, some work on tungsten, some work on titanium, iron, whatever have you. So kind of what your specialties are. So it's a good. I would say if you bring in students from computer science, business, or economics background, manufacturing, aerospace, and let's create a group project with 10, 20 students. I can help support it to help with the requirements and all that. Let's create a project, let it get it going. I mean, UTEP can create this and then it can survive in the cloud. I'm sure UTEP has its own cloud and you can provide the cloud services. So it's got to stay in a neutral cloud so that it doesn't become like someone's IP and all that stuff. So our Chamber of Commerce can collect it and put it in the cloud. But I think that's the way to handle it, is to create this kind of hub. And let's create through student project first if you want, and we can work together and make it happen.
Thank you, PK. Last year, we started the similar project with City of El Paso, and I see the Director of Economic Development, Jessica, is on the call. So Jessica, if you want to add something to that initiative we had for creating the database.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was in mute. Apologize. I'm also having trouble, Dr. Chowdhury, with my camera and my mute, so I might have a bit of technical issues, but I hope to get it fixed here shortly. Jessica Herrera, good afternoon, with the City of El Paso Economic Development. As Dr. Chowdhury stated, we did enter into a partnership really wanting to just reinforce the support that had already started with the County of El Paso. And of course, we have assets across the city, of which many are not utilized for any specific public use. And we just felt that the location really lent itself to several things, right? There would be an opportunity to work with our school district and start creating a pipeline that could help train a lot of these individuals, and then partner hand in hand with the university and with the guidance of our students. We had a facility, right, Dr. Chowdhury, that was recently actually leased by our community college. So we were lucky enough that, the tenant improvements were minimal, and the space, as I said, was really embedded within the community in an area that was very close to our medical center, very close to one of our high schools that has similar programs and hopefully future programs that can tie into this industry sector. But we've been very impressed with how quickly UTEP has, stepped to the table, formed the collaboration with not just Lockheed, but other entities, and then our veteran population with Fort Bliss. That's also been key in terms of helping, ensure that many of our transitioning soldiers consider El Paso as an opportunity to stay as they're leaving the military. But it's been a very good partnership, and I think from our standpoint, there's still a lot more that we could do as we continue to work on growing this supply chain.
With Jessica's team, we worked on last year to create, synthesize a list of our initial list, Jessica, right? That 39 company we shortlisted. And it will be a good exercise for us to start the first digital hub. And David and I have been working. So I think we have a good start on that. And if we can get PK as our advisor, developing that, it would be a great initiative.
Happy to help. Happy to. I'll give you an
Yes.
example what we did in the summer. Not so we have another effort for creating supply chain for drones and all that, and we'll definitely connect on that. But one of the things we did, which is unrelated to the aero, seemingly unrelated, but we created a hub that connected the farmers with food banks and Angel Flight, the pilots, with the small aircraft. So right now, as you know, the problem in COVID is farmers are literally throwing food because they're not able to get, the demand has gone low with the restaurants and all that. They can't find enough people to work on it and things like that. But at the same time, the demand at the food banks has gone up. So how do you actually give that access to the food banks for the food that might otherwise go waste? So we connected, we create our students, interns that were working with me, created a portal that allowed us to connect the farmers to food banks. And then we also brought in the aviation part so that it increases the length of connection. And that we just recently working with Angel Flight and FarmLink, another group of students were also doing similar things, but they were not thinking aviation, which we brought to the aviation to them. Together, we were able to deliver 300 boxes of huge boxes of food and fruits and vegetables to food banks, 30 some flights. So it's really awesome to see when you connect the power of digital platforms, when you connect the demand and supply and address the society need. And I'm passionate about connecting that through aviation, obviously. But it's a huge game changer when you reduce the friction of having the demand nodes finding the supply nodes and each other, and then reducing the time to bridge that.
Thank you, PK. You highlighted that a part of the big part of a supply chain development is the talent development. And UTEP has been forefront of developing talents, but there are two new initiatives. One is a brand new aerospace engineering bachelor and a master's program at UTEP, as well as a associate degree program in Western Tech. Both of those programs are led by Dr. Jack Chesa, who is the chairman of mechanical engineering of UTEP. So I'm going to give him the floor. So if he has a specific question or add his perspective on this, Jack. You have to, okay. Can't hear you. Jack, you cannot hear it.
You can't hear on the.
Yeah, now we can.
You can hear on that. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll speak into the earbud thing. Yeah. So yeah, we're finalizing the proposal to go to THECB for a Bachelor of Science in Aerospace and Aeronautical Engineering, and then we're also going to submit this year a master's degree. So this is also coupled pretty closely with a 2-year associate's degree in at one of the technical colleges here in aerospace sciences as well. So we're working closely with them, developing sort of an aerospace educational ecosystem that includes both the classic sort of aerospace training, but also a heavy focus on manufacturing as well as the technician side of things. So both the aerospace engineers, for example, will, at UTEP will be being exposed and working with the technicians and vice versa on a lot of our applied projects. So they get used to that sort of the way they communicate, the needs they have, and hopefully when they graduate, they're actually can be highly productive in that area, both from the manufacturing as well as the classic design standpoints.
Nice.
Thank you, Jack. So obviously we'll be reaching out to AIM's team, and NASA has been a big help for our aerospace education program.
Professor Chandra, one more thing. I don't know, my good friend from NASA Langley, Paul Krasa, is here. He might want to add a few things. Him and I have been buddying up together on this MUREP, and Garniz, if not Paul, maybe Dr. Garniz there at NASA Langley can also add a few things. I don't know if she's around, but
yeah, I'm on PK.
oh,
I'm
good.
just
Okay.
PK's iPad because for some reason I can't get on the computer and I could get on the iPad, but I can't make the video work. So PK and I'm sort of like the PK on the East. Paul Krasa. We've been working this together since the inception of the MUREP. And I will tell you, and Bernice has heard me say this many times, that the El Paso UTEP program is very outstanding. We've very impressed with it. I like how well it's been student oriented, and that it's the multiple layers on it. When you look at how it goes from goes down to the community college level, goes to technical school level, works with the Chamber of Commerce, works at the university level, and then is also partnered with Lockheed Martin. I think that it's a very, very strong program, and it's been very impressive. I think the only regret that we've had, and PK and I've talked about this, is we really were planning on trying to get down to UTEP this summer. We really wanted to come out to that campus and see your program, meet some of the students, and get that firsthand experience. I think it's a model. I like the way I've heard about how UTEP supports the students and how they've created an infrastructure around the students that definitely sets them up for success. And from that, I think that there's a lot to look forward to from that program in the future.
Thank you, PK, for those nice compliment. And we would love to have you guys here. And we are not only we have a great food, but we have great people here. And obviously, we'll be reaching out to Ames a lot as you start to feel that, because we are very committed, not only producing talents, but creating job for them in El Paso area. So we could we could take as much as possible to start doing that.
Well, let me say something there. It's not just Ames. I mean, and both of us don't just represent one center. We both of us work at the national level, and there's resources that cross-cut all of our NASA centers, our research centers. From what's going on at NASA Langley in the area of materials and material sciences and structures, to going up to Glenn Research Center with the propulsion systems and stuff like that, and then moving out to Ames with the modeling and computational modeling systems for materials, which is definitely a growing area that needs to be fostered. We need to have more people coming out of the universities that understand the depths of computational materials. And then going down even to Armstrong, where we have the combined loads facility. I mean, we use an integrated approach across NASA. Our centers are not silos. They're not little islands upon themselves, and it's an integrated system. That's how PK and I know each other so well. We've been working together for at least a decade and a half. But the thing is, we represent all the different aspects of NASA, and we're able to reach into all the different aspects of NASA. And for that matter, Marshall Space Flight Center has a very good material systems. Now, obviously, their systems are more tailored towards the space side, versus where you're going to get up to Langley, where we're more towards the aeronautics side. You go out, Ames is pretty much a balance between the two. I mean, and it's interesting, if you know anything about Ames, the picture that PK has, that big long structure in the back was originally built for dirigibles. So that tells you how long we've been in the aeronautics game, all the way back to where there was dirigibles. So, and they had unique materials too. So. I just wanted to say, you know, we got to think broadly about the agency.
Thank you. We do have a very good partnership with JSC, Marshall, as well as Glenn Research Center. Those are the three centers we work because we're too focused on space. But partnership with Ames and Armstrong will be our new endeavor, and we're very excited to do that. So I do have a question from one of our very successful defense small business based on El Paso. And the representative is a Métis Incorporated. They specialize in systems engineering and support DoD and trying to get into composite manufacturing. So I will open the floor for Sheri Bennington from Métis Incorporated. Sheri, if you want to ask your question, I can read it, but if you want to ask, just ask by yourself, please.
Sure, hold on. I'm trying to get my act together here. Okay, here we go. So, hi, I'm
Hi.
Sheri Bennington, and I work for Métis, who is headquartered in El Paso. And we've been trying to do what Lockheed has asked to do, which was bring composites to El Paso. However, there's no real ecosystem specifically around that in El Paso. So we've been trying to do it all on our own, but trying to partner with UTEP. But I can imagine trying to create an ecosystem like Dr. PK is saying, that if there was an ecosystem around a specific system, maybe we could stand up a small group of small businesses dedicated to supply a specific set of parts. But how do we're having trouble trying to get one of those guys, a Lockheed, a Boeing, a Northrop, to pay attention because they're so big and, you know, a multi-octopus, you know, legged animal, that when they look at small business, they want to see capability and capacity immediately. They don't have time to deal with somebody who's trying to set something up. And so we have been lucky enough to we're working with MIT Lincoln Lab to manufacture a part for free to try to create our own capability. We'd love to create that capability, but we want to make sure that when we do that, there's going to be, somebody who wants what we build. So
why don't you let me handle that, PK? So one of the things PK and I have been discussing, and you know, the MURIP is sort of, I'd call it stage one of what we're trying to do with supply chain. We only have a small dedicated team, so we have to sort of pick our points. We got the MURIP going. The next things that we're starting to look at, I mean, NASA has a very large SBIR solicitation that comes out every year. And one of the things that we're going to start looking at is discussing how can we add a topic area for that for supply chain. Supply chain for aerospace. Now, the one thing we have to discuss about it is we know we want to do something with supply chain. We know we want to do something with aerospace. Do we tailor it more to AAM, UAM? We haven't decided at this point what exact system we want at this point to focus it in on. I'm guessing, and don't hold me to it, that we'll probably put out a topic either this year or next year for supply chain for AAM, because it seems like it's the natural next step. Now, the other thing is, I will say, is we are just currently standing up HiCam, which is a high rates composite manufacturing project within the agency. It's in formulation right now. It will come out of formulation sometime next May or June. And that is a follow-on to our advanced composites project. And it will be done as a public-private partnership, similar to ACP. And there's also already a group in place called the Advanced Composite Consortium, the ACC. And they will be opening that up. I'm not sure, I can't say that past formulation we're going to use the ACC. We haven't made that determination yet, but we will be doing something similar to that. and it will be opening up. The thing is, if you're going to become part of that consortium, it's a 50-50 cost share. It's a for every government dollar that's put up in procurement, there's a matching dollar. And you know, the consortium is how that consortium model is how that money will be allocated. I've been involved in doing consortiums before. We definitely have had small businesses that have been very, very successful. As an example, I'll give you one business that came out of one of our consortiums, which was during the Agate project, which is late 90s, early 2000s, was Cirrus Aircraft. Cirrus Aircraft was a small business and a consortium member of Agate, and they are now, I think, the #1 producer of single-engine general aviation aircraft in the country. So I know that we're going to be doing something in that area, but I can't tell you exactly what it is. And I can't tell you exactly at this point how you will join membership, because that's all in development and formulation right now.
Yeah, so thank you, Paul, for taking that on. A few more thoughts maybe I can offer is you can also write the STTR for DoD's Agility Prime. That's just opened up. This is the problem you describe is the classic problem of the supply chain tier system, when the lowest tier is often ignored by the OEMs because they don't have time to talk to them at the lowest tier. This is why the tier system evolved. So my suggestion would be for you to not to go to the top OEM right away. All the things we teach in the supply chain is like, if you want to be the tier 6, then you should really try to cultivate your relationships with tier 5 suppliers and across the tiers. So horizontally on tier 6 with your friends into the similar kind of industry who have some challenges or have excess work, or sometimes they don't have enough work. So the tier 6, and then you want to up level yourself to just tier 5, and then say they are your true customers right away. So you would start to interact with them and build a relationship with tier 5. Now, what you would need some help, and this is somewhere we can possibly help you, but you can also talk to the Lockheed Martin, their supply chain and all that people, and say, like, tell me your tiers, who they are, so I can at least talk to them. If you don't want to interact with me, I can understand, no problem. But let me talk to the right tier. So you got to insert into that right tier. And if you had to decide in composite, like, what do you want to specialize? Like, are you trying to aspire for El Paso to be the people who actually are doing the raw material stuff, people who are doing the layups, people want to do everything, people who want to actually do joints? What is the special focused area that you want to do? So what I would do is I would do a little bit of again, here's where your business school students can be also useful. So like lay of the land of basically who has the ecosystem, who does what in the United States based on the emerging business needs, where are the opportunities. Maybe you talk to someone else. If Lockheed is unwilling to, you talk to new companies, right? So new companies are always hungry and they're willing to talk to you because they are just starting to find suppliers. Like you guys have a huge presence of Bell helicopters, and now it's called just Bell. You can go talk, perhaps you can interact with them and say, hey, Bell, you guys are in Dallas. I know you're building new type of vehicle. How can we be part of the ecosystem? I know you guys have challenges with your suppliers. What can we do to help you? Because this will be a totally new supply chain, right? So there are a few ideas like that. And Paul and I, we're happy to kind of brainstorm with you and kind of come up with some ideas to try. Does that help?
Hey, this is Joletta. Just a real quick statement is that myself and my team have been putting some additional comments about some of the programs that are offered at NASA that can help with that alignment as well. But we've been putting it in a chat. So just be sure to look at the chat, either cut and paste and copy. But the two programs we put links to was SBR, STTR that were mentioned before. And then the other one would be the Mentor Protege program. You could use UTEP as the lead, but you could definitely partner in that and kind of move out on that. But there's another question in the chat if you want to try to address it in the next 2 minutes from Chris Danek.
Yes, we are kind of almost end of our time. So, but I'm just gonna get a few minutes over. But Chris Danek is one of our partner asked a question that where can we research those supply chain? Is there any place that we can get those information? Where can a small business research the members of supply chain tiers?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. So the new emerging vehicles, urban air mobility drones, they don't have supply chain. That's why we are doing it, right? That's why we are getting involved. You can research there are books on supply chain. You know, you can aero supply chain. If you just Google aero supply chain, you will see there are reports by McKinsey and Ernst and Young. And if you look at the Professor Chaudhary, you can give him the link to our workshop we did in February. It has a lot of presentation with a lot of references, some references from many of the consulting companies. They actually have identified some of those. We have identified some. Boeing has a Pacific Northwest kind of a meeting every, I want to say September or February, I forget when it was, but it's kind of changed because of the COVID. But there are regional meetings of supply chain. There is a supply chain association, so that you can join that. I mean, there are like tons of resources, and like Joletta or Garnice, one of them was saying, we can also help you with the mentor and be part of the brainstorming. Look, I mean, there are no easy answers. If there were, then people would have already built it, right? I mean, this is why we're doing it.
Yep.
So
we are almost at the end of the time, and I really like to thank PK and also PK East. Thank you so much for all the insight. But I'll give the floor back to David for the final remarks. Back to you, David.
Well, thank you, Doctor. Let me just say thank you to everybody. PK, if I can presume to call you that already. I feel like I've got to know you. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I really encouraged by this kind of meeting, and obviously what we're doing with Dr. Chaudhary to grow aerospace and defense contracting here in El Paso is, I think, with partnerships with the city, the county, and others is just really terrific. And we look forward to expanding and growing with NASA. And today, the time that you spent has been terrific. And also, Jack, good to see you again from UTEP, I should say real quick. And but I will say it is unique. It's but we're very fortunate to have the outstanding leadership of the faculty at UTEP, like Dr. Chaudhary, to help us as we sort of progress with this. And I'm excited to continue this work with you all. So I wish you a wonderful day. Just so you know, we are recording this, obviously. It will show up on YouTube. We have a Netflix-like station there called El Paso Chamber TV, where it will be seen as well. So I think we had about 30 people logging now to watch it, which is terrific, but you'll watch it go quite a bit further very shortly when we post it on Facebook and put it on the YouTube station as well. And I just want to mention that so that you know that you can reference it back later. But in the meantime, thank you again, and we look forward to talking to you all soon. Thank you.
Just a quick announcement, we will have a similar event on September 17th with the Department of Navy. So
that's right. Thank you.
Join us in September. But with that, thank you. And thank you again. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you for inviting us. PK, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So talk later. Bye.
Bye now.
Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.
Bye now.